Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today we are going to be tackling a pretty simple, hopefully, project in which we split apart an HTML file. That could mean a bunch of different things to different people, but essentially what I want to do is take this very long PDF file, lots and lots of text, it's just a book, and actually split it up so that it ends up as 4, 5, 10 different HTML files. So I have up here index.html. I want to split it up to part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, each a separate, distinct HTML file. I think I'm going to use Python to do it, but the question going through your mind is probably why anyone would do this. Long story short, text to speech. I found recently that Google has updated their text to speech engine. If you're on a web page on a Pixel phone or any Android phone, I think, and you tell it to read aloud, it'll read the web page. So number one, it's only for web pages. You can't just pick up any PDF. And what I found is their recent update has made it shockingly good. Their text to speech, which is an AI reading this text to you, has become shockingly good. I used to love how Azure or Microsoft Edge reads it to me, but Google has, of course, has finally caught up. Their last version was pretty robotic. It was actually pretty hard to listen to. Now, the real problem is, number one, you don't want it as a giant web page. They have no bookmarks. It's not meant for you to read an entire book. But the other problem is the app seems to crash out on really long books. So it'll parse through maybe the first, first chunk of it, maybe the first 10, 20,000 words, and then it'll just stop working. As a result, you want to parse that out. And so that's the motivation, and I'm thinking there's going to be multiple pieces to this, but the very first obvious step is let's split up the HTML file. Okay, maybe that's not the first step. I wanted to talk about a couple other things. First of all, I just picked up any sort of random EPUB. I could have downloaded this on HTML, but I have a lot of EPUBs. I have some PDFs, and you can convert them anywhere. So if you just Google online PDF to HTML, there's going to be like a dozen converters that will do a decent job. I'm using Calibra, whatever you want to call it. And it's actually kind of a bulky piece of software. I don't actually like it, but I like the results of their conversion. They seem to be fairly consistent. So you can see that they've done a really good job of converting this EPUB. It looks really good. And so that's where I got my HTML file. You can take any kind of EPUB, Mobi, I don't know what other kind of files you might want, but convert them to an HTML file first, and then step 2 is splitting it up. So I haven't really thought about it that much. I figured what I was going to do is use Beautiful Soup. And so I did cheat a little bit by setting up the groundwork. You can see I've created my virtual environment. I've installed Beautiful Soup, or pip installed Beautiful Soup so we can get started. But other than that, I haven't written any code. What else do I need to go through? Let's take a look at the file first. One of the reasons I want to use caliber is because they're fairly consistent. All of these headers are always given a class. 1, 2, 3, and so on. And so even if I have different formats, PDF, EPUB, another web page, it'll convert it to something that's fairly standard to them. They keep the classes the same across the board. So that is helpful. That's helpful because ultimately, when you're going to split the HTML, one way you can do it is just every 1,000 words, every 10,000 words. But another way is to actually go in and figure out what is chapter 2. And so if you inspect, they've labeled it as 6, caliber 6, an H2 class. And if I search up another section, over here, it's H3, so the proper headers, the proper HTML tag. So that goes along. The idea is to use beautiful soup. One of the things you want to do is keep the headers all the same. And I think that's about it. All this has is a header and a body, and so we can cut the body apart into pieces. And I'm thinking this ebook maker is a great way to split this up. Okay, so let's just get started. This looks like 10 different pieces. Okay, so success. If you take a look at these random extracts of Sherlock Holmes, it's obviously much shorter than this giant long HTML. Walking through what I did, we have this long HTML original file that just goes on and on and on. And what we did was we split it up into 14 different files, each a bit shorter. What we have done is we've added some styling. They each have their own head. They each have their own metadata header. We have the style, and then we have a shortened piece of the text. This is terrible tabbing, so let's not do that. How did we do it? Well, what we did, and this is probably not the most elegant way of doing it. I used to love Beautiful Soup. I started with Python first. That was the language I used. And so I didn't get JavaScript, I didn't get jQuery, and so this was the best way to go through HTML. And it was amazing. And then now that I have some kind of JavaScript jQuery under my belt, this feels clunky and different. Maybe it's not clunky for everyone, but I struggled to work with it. Anyways, you open it with Beautiful Soup. I don't think you have much of an alternative if you're on Python, but you take the index HTML, make sure you pick the right encoding, and make sure when you write it, you have the same encoding, because that tripped me up for a while. We had weird characters show up in the file. And you don't want that, obviously. You get your soup file, which is all of your HTML, but Beautiful Soup kind of starts tagging various items. And the first thing we did was extract out the head. So this is the metadata here, the title, metadata. There's this CSS style sheet that goes nowhere. You get that piece right in there. The idea, why you do this, the idea is every file is going to need that same header over and over. Now, if I was doing a really good job, I might edit the title for each different one to say part 0, part 1, part 2, but doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is you need that metadata present in each file individually. And then you start cutting the body into various pieces. So I'll ignore this big chunk for now. You get straight to the bottom, and what we did was we just put in a simple counter, and then we had soup select, and each one of these was a section. We found this class, and we took out the section. Soup select will give you a list of these sections, and all we did was we have this section, we put HTML open tag at the top, we stick in the header, and then we stick in the CSS piece, we stick in the section, and then we close off the HTML tag. So we just stack that top metadata, some styling, and then wrap it all up into a file. And finally, we of course write out the file into something that we can save. And then we increase the index, and then you move on to the next, and the next, and the next. Really, really simple, probably not the most elegant way of doing it. The other thing I did, of course, was the styling. I put in the CSS in the original file, because if you don't, the text wouldn't look this good. Everything would be left, right justified, left, not justified, was it staggered right alignment, left alignment. You wouldn't have the right font. All of these would be the same font. You don't want that. So I put in the styling here, mainly because I have played around with this in the past. I did this manually for a couple files, which is why I need to do this now. But I know that there are a couple classes where the styling is just very awkward, and I don't know why they chose it that way. So you can fiddle with it and make sure that they look good. Big lesson here, big real life kind of challenge here is this came from a nice EPUB file from Project Gutenberg. That means that all of these are nice segments. But if you start converting a PDF, sometimes you might not have these nice sections. What you're going to have is something that looks just like this, but all the way down. There's no sections. You just hit a header, paragraph, 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 and then another header, and then paragraph, 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 header. So we had this beautiful one-line section right here because of Beautiful Soup. But if you're converting PDF or something really messy, you might not have that luxury. And what you're going to have to do is look at this as one string. And what I would do is use Python find in a string, and basically search up the headers. Every time you see an H1 class, you cut a top bit, spit out one of these files, make your way to the next header class, and then the next one and the next one, and do the same process. So that's all there is. There are many ways you can split this up. I wanted something that's nice and easy because I have a very utilitarian reason to do this. For those of you curious, I thought it would be fun just for you guys to hear Google's text-to-speech. Okay, let's see.
From NET, the Tech Contract Handbook. The prime clauses are the key terms in most technology contracts. They provide for the fundamental transaction, the exchange of software or services for money or other consideration. Most IT contracts include two of them.
What I really like about Google's is it's a nice even voice, but there's slight intonation. They're really good at picking up dates. They're good at picking up acronyms. So you heard IT, for example, whereas some other text-to-speech might try and call it it or something weird. It's very good at picking up. You should spell out certain acronyms, but not others. In general, it's just fairly passable. I'm not going to say, it's like a human reading to you, but for a lot of books that aren't Harry Potter, that aren't Dan Brown, that aren't on Audibles, this is kind of your best alternative. And so if you're anything like me, you're just busy, and it's nice to have this text read out to you as you're playing video games, as you're washing dishes, as you're writing code. So I have really leaned on that. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you like it, just thumbs up, comment. If you have any criticisms, also comment. Love to tackle more projects, especially ones that interest you. So thanks for watching. See you guys next week.